Watch says 7 o'clock. Roll call. Sarah.
Here.
John.
Here.
Rick.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
And I'm here, and Doug is excused for this evening. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, consent agenda.
I move.
Move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, public input. This is the time and place for discussion items not already on the agenda with a time limit of 3 minutes each. It's all part of the consent agenda. All right, 5A, Joe Jennison here to discuss CDG. Hi, Joe.
Hey, so this is in reference to the last meeting. You guys have requested Joe attend, and I brought handouts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I always like handouts.
Oh, each get one. So the one is our annual report. It just came out a few weeks back. And the other one is both. I'll give you it too.
Thank you.
The other one is the final budgets for our last fiscal year. And there are two organizations, right, that I represent. The Mount Vernon-Lisbon Community Development Group and the Mount Vernon-Lisbon Community Charitable Development Group. And the one is a fundraising organization for the other. And that's new, that 501c3. It has enabled us to do a lot more work. That money that we got through Channel this last year, that went through the fundraising organization, and that resulted in $10,000 check to the city of Lisbon and a $10,000 check to the city of Mount Vernon. Did you guys have specific questions, or did you want me just to go on?
Well, the reason we asked for you to come in was we had our annual audit, and during the audit, it was brought up by the auditing organization that there was not a direct connection to the $6,000 that we budget for CDG and a benefit to the city of Lisbon. So,
And this is the second year that's been on the audit.
that has been
Yes.
called out as what is the connection between the
I'm not quite sure
expense.
what I can do to help, but I will tell you that, of course, last year, we came up, I think, with $36,000 that came back to Lisbon businesses to help during the pandemic, right? And then every year we do the big grants that several Lisbon businesses, let me get this here for you. That several Lisbon businesses take advantage of. So this last year, D&D Body Shop asked us for $535, and Luke Crawl and the On Main Space asked for $725, and Sarah and Burner asked for $1,050 for Bo Dellins. So that's $2,300 total. And then a $10,000 check that I told you about earlier, I think it was about $36,000 total that we gave to Lisbon businesses during the pandemic. And I've got a list of them here. It was Abbey's and Barbara John's and Barnyard Screed Printing, Buzzano, Bo Dillon's, Bill's Tap. And these were all working with the cities of Mount Vernon and Lisbon. And we put together these applications which several businesses took advantage of. In addition, we market ourselves always as the Mount Vernon-Lisbon Community Development Group. So we have ads that go out. We paid $3,554.29 in ads. And when those ads go out, those general ads, you know, the logo is the Mount Vernon-Lisbon Community Development Group. So we do work for marketing, promoting both towns. Lisbon businesses and Lisbon attractions are listed in our regular visitor guide. We're working with the Sun right now. We're going to develop in this next year a magazine size visitor guide with both Mount Vernon and Lisbon businesses and attractions listed, as well as the hotels, Elaine's Bed and Breakfast, etc. Those ads are about $51,845.29, and again, that's for both cities. And then I saw here you have the tear-off maps. We always do those. And those maps are downtowns of both Mount Vernon and Lisbon. So I think it's all in there. We also, incidentals, things like Easter egg dash, Shop Small Saturday, for the events that include both communities. And then there are things like the scholarships that we do. And then we always give money to Sauerkraut Days, Movie Night, Halloween Town when we have it. Then there are things like that. Smoking cessation contests we did. We had 3 Lisbon smokers that went through the cessation program. So those are kind of the things that I can think of right off the top of my head. But when I add them all up, it's like $51,000+. I do think that, and I think that, I can't speak for my board, but I do think that they would agree that it's really important for us to have one organization that represents both communities, and CDG seems to be that. I'm working with Brandon right now on this project that we're trying to get a sign put out on the bypass to call attention to Lisbon, and with Brandon and others on the Economic Vitality Committee, we do a lot of work. Several, we call them entrepreneurs, where businesses from both communities are invited to learn about some things that can help them in their regular work. We're happy to represent both communities, and as always, we're appreciative of Lisbon City Council's continued support. So I'm not quite sure how this audit works. I'm not quite sure how to help you guys answer the audit. I think when we started this investment from Lisbon City Council, I think we asked for it as to help my salary. That's really not necessary anymore. I'm a Mount Vernon City employee with Mount Vernon City employee benefits. So any money that we get just ends up going right back to your community and your businesses. And I would assume that we're going to continue that as we go forward. Does this help?
So I think if going forward, it might be best to have Joe at some point prior to the audit sit down with the auditor or have a communication to discuss.
Does this
I think
report
this
satisfy the auditors?
I think this is a good first step. I think they just they didn't want it to think that we were just paying $6,000 to somebody and don't really have an idea of where that money goes and what, like this, we didn't have this previously. He didn't, so I think this will help explain it, and probably just getting you
I
to
would
meet with
think that
him.
that's gonna solve the problem.
Because like I said, there's numerous entities we do this for. This is just one that I noticed on the previous one, when I was comparing them, this was on here twice. So we asked them, and it was just said, we need more purpose, to show more purpose for that money, so. I
Well,
think
of course, if that auditor asks questions of me
Yeah.
or of us, we'd be happy to work with him or her.
Right.
And I'm sorry if we've caused any trouble. We appreciate all
Well,
the support we get.
We're gonna blame it on you.
I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
And I just see a lot of community things going on in Mount Vernon. Do you guys put any events over here in Lisbon?
So, no, the answer is no, we do not.
And is there a reason?
Well, we have done events in the past. We did,
Did the art thing
say, the art one time we came over here. Yeah, that didn't quite work. There was
And the
a
only
music
reason
on
I
Main
ask,
program.
and maybe I need to make myself clear, is that now that the bypass is there, we don't have a clear shot to Lisbon. So we're kind of off the map, we're off the grid. And we, like any other town, we want outsiders in. The historical preservation, they're working very hard on a lot of things in town. We want visitors here, obviously. So my thing is that we really need to draw some people here. So I don't know if there's a reason why I mean, in the years that I've been here, I don't recall any events that the CDG has put on here in Lisbon.
Well, there has been a few. We did the comedy festival for years over here, and then that one kind of tanked. We didn't do that anymore. The Music on Main, I know that we've had Johnny Crow play out here, and there's been maybe a couple, at least one other Music on Main event, but that's another one that really hasn't continued. I think, the way I would answer your question is, I think we'd be very interested in it. We work with community volunteers, so if there's a group here that wants to contact us about helping get something else going, I think we'd be very willing to do that. But it really needs to be put together by local volunteers. Lisbon
Oh, absolutely,
volunteers, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
I just was wondering if there's,
The other thing we do is we write checks, right? So Sauerkraut Days gets a check from us. When we do Halloween Town, you'll get a check from us. So Movie Night's another one that we sponsor, those kinds of things. And basically, whenever we're asked, we'll write a check. And I know that we're happy to do that.
And you were heavily involved with the murder mystery.
That was another one, yes, of course.
Amy and my wife worked on that.
So these brochures, are these the brochures that you're talking about as far as they're located here downtown, both towns?
That was my annual report, so
Okay.
no. But there'll be some mentions of some of the work.
Okay.
All of the people that gave us money are listed in there, so.
Okay,
No, it's a little blue book. I bet you probably got it in the lobby. I can run and go find it.
I was just wondering where they're all located. And the reason why I'm a marketing guru, that's where I'm at. Like, I'm totally about marketing and knowing what demographic is getting that brochure. Is it getting mailed out? Is it just sitting stagnant in
So we get,
racks? Is it, like, what is the population that it's going to? That's kind of where I'm at, just to see where we're sitting at getting our name out there on the map.
so the brochure lists both Lisbon and Mount Vernon businesses and attractions. It's out at every festival that CDG does in Mount Vernon. And then it also goes, I bet I send 4,000 of them a year up to Cornell to send them out. And then they have on campus when they have events. We work with a distribution company that puts them in hotels and rest areas around the area. I think there was something like 50 of those that it went to. We've stopped that contract for this next year, and we're going to update our website. And our website will have the same businesses, restaurants, bed and breakfast, attractions listed on the website as they are in that guide. So that's a little different this year. The distribution's going to stop.
Okay.
How many of your board members are from Lisbon?
Well, John comes to every meeting. Help me out, John. Who else is from Lisbon? We just lost Casey Crawl.
Yeah, she was on the board.
Yeah.
And we also
Oh,
had
Michelle at the bank across the street is on our board.
Andrea Gorsh was on the board
Yeah.
until she moved.
Yeah.
It's probably not as many as it was, but,
Michelle, though, she lives in Mount Vernon, doesn't
She lives in Mount Vernon, but
That's
she
what,
works
I
across the
think
street.
what he's asking is there anybody
Lisbon
currently
residents?
living in Lisbon?
Barb Eady,
That's right, Barbie. Mhm.
and she's the head of the Economic Vitality Group that meets here once a
When we're
month.
not on Zoom.
And we used to have our separate economic development, but that is no more. It's really part of this group now. So it's evolved. And I've always been in favor and pushed for the communities working together. And we've come a long way in the last 30 years.
I'm happy to do this however you guys would want, and, the answer is always yes when you call and ask for our help if there's something that we can do. So just let us know. The other thing, and I've said this before when I've talked to, not necessarily Lisbon Council, but Lisbon residents, is that, I think it's just really important that we continue to work together. But if for some reason we decide that going forward, Lisbon doesn't want to be a part of this organization, it'll be very easy to go through that list and find out, where the money came from, which Lisbon businesses, which Lisbon residents, and split it up, if that's what you'd like. I love coming over here. I love the people here, and I couldn't see us not working together, but, the decision's not mine, it's your guys'.
But I don't worry too much about the auditors. We've got things like separation of duties, and that's always going to be a day for us. It's just the way it is. And I think overall, we do very well with our audit, so.
We do. It's just that this has been on there twice now, and I think seeing a breakdown of where that money is going to is important, not only for the auditors, but as a city as well in general. These are taxpayers that want to know where that money's going. So I think in general, knowing what that 6,000 is going for the taxpayers' purposes, I think that's not a bad thing to know either.
This last year, we got our money back 2 or 3 times, so, at least.
Yeah, that absolutely sounds like it, and that alone should have been conveyed to the auditors, and I would think would remove that scar or that observation from the report.
We'll just have to be better prepared for them next time.
Well, and also let me know what I can do.
Well, John, as liaison, do you get this report when
I see all the monthly reports they send to me,
Okay.
their treasurer and such, so.
it seems to me if we had this on file at the time of audit, we may
Yeah.
have been able to head that thing off, so if you think about it next time,
Yep.
turn that in.
This is the first one I went through, and so I just was comparing it to previous, and I seen this twice, and I thought, okay, and then Christina and I met, and so we kind of talked to them how they want it, and of course, they accepted our response, but I think in the future, just to clear this off, if we just meet with them and then say, okay, what specifically do you need going forward if this isn't good enough, or, and I think it's just more of an understanding is what we all want, and so, I think this is a great start, so.
Yes, I think so.
Well, I'm here, you guys.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
And
Appreciate you coming
call
in.
anytime and, ask. I'm here to help. All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you, Joe.
I'm going to
Alrighty. 5B, discussion and possible action in reference to BE Lisbon funds.
So this was a topic, which was towards the end of last year. I put my notes here to you guys. The $5,000 is always budgeted. We didn't get anybody to apply. I think one of the biggest reasons is because of the price, the cost of construction and materials was so high. I don't think anybody applied because $5,000 wasn't really offsetting the cost of doing the work. So we were kind of left it open-ended on what we were going to do with the BE Lisbon funds. I was doing some brainstorming, and Marcia helped me make some calls to the DOT to get things organized here, and I bounced it off Joe. But our thought was they have the blue business signs out there on the exits on Highway 30. So one thought was they only have food, lodging, and attractions, I believe is the other one.
Gas, food, lodging.
Yes, food and lodging, sorry about that.
No worries.
So our thought was maybe utilizing the funds to get those signs put up there. I wrote the list of businesses that could potentially fit that sign. It'd be about $860 per business for that initial setup in the first year. So, and what that would be is the $100 application fee, the $300 sign to get it made, and then $230 each way would be $460 total, so east and westbound, for a total of $860. Again, this was just a thought. I did talk to Joe and the Economic Vitality Committee. They discussed it. They kind of came up with an application. Joe sent this to me late last week. It's something I don't wanna, I just wanted to get some input before we get too far along here, and I didn't know if anybody else had any other ideas to use that money for. If we wanted to just, one option is we could not do anything and next year have 10,000. However you wanna.
I mean, can we offer this as maybe a city covers 50%, the business owner covers 50%, that way they have some skin in the game? for this,
One thing I talked to John about, and this was kind of the same principle, was, you know, if they did this, maybe requiring them to do the second year. Even though that's not 50%, but we could do whatever you wanted, but just something where they are putting money towards it. It's not necessarily a free gift, because there are businesses that may want advertising that this doesn't fit the criteria for. That's the other caveat with this, but I can't control what the DOT allows. This is just one idea of something that we could do to you know, put some signs out there to show that there's more here than Casey's that's currently out there.
Yeah, I didn't want to see it just be a freebie. Everybody says okay to a freebie, but if when we're spending money to make the sign and everything, to at least get them to pay for the second year, and then be at the time that they make application, I would think we want their money now.
I would suggest getting it up front, personally.
Yeah, I'd prefer to do a 50-50 thing, or yeah, they pay for the first year, we pay for the second year. Granted, that may.
At least they would then commit that first year.
Right, like I said, skin in the game, you can't just hand it out, because then everyone will want it. And
But I think that money is in this year's budget,
You're right,
so.
I believe so. And it, you know, these three categories only, there's a lot more businesses in town that don't fit these categories.
Now, one thing in the future, and where I mentioned attractions are one of the things that could be added later. So if we ever wanted to put the sports complex out there, or, you know, a sign for that, or something like that.
History
Like the
Center.
History Center, or Gettysburg Boulder, different things like that. We could also explore down the road. I just was thinking of different ways to get more people into town. If they see 5 or 6 things there, maybe people just stop thinking, gosh, they must have something there, so. How do you want me to proceed? You want me to just do 50%, or what are your thoughts?
I like making them commit into the second year. I personally do. I mean, or 50%, pay 50%, and maybe we could use the other, what's our cost? What would be our cost if we paid 50% and they paid the other percent? 50%.
Well, it'd be $3,010.
So what if we took that other, what is
So
it?
it'd be
That's
$1,990.
You might have some that won't sign up for it that aren't open that much, too.
Sure.
I think of one in particular. But another idea I had down the road was to use it for incubator money for a business that wants to move in a space downtown where we don't have a business now, in order to get more businesses downtown might be another. But I don't know of anything available right now. But that's just another thought for that kind of money.
And if you want to talk signs and about businesses, it could go to the sports complex where, I don't know where we're at with any kind of fundraising or anything, but if there's businesses that have sponsored, or you could list those businesses on a sign there to obviously get their name there as well. Just, you know, just an idea.
And I would assume,
Or individuals, I guess,
next year
to donate.
we would try the traditional BE Lisbon grant
Yeah.
again, like normal.
Yeah.
It's my assumption,
Mhm.
but. You wanna try 50%?
That's my vote.
Yep, I say 50%.
So we will, no, I think what we'll do is we'll get the application together, and then
Yeah.
we'll do a formal on the next meeting, get it sent out to you, and then you guys can look at it and see your thoughts.
All right,
Sounds good.
take action then, thank you.
We're good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on to 5C, presentation from YTT in reference to Phase 1 of Sports Complex.
All right, Lisa Birch is here from YTT Design, and she is gonna go over, we had given her assignment to kind of do this with the Third Avenue extension in mind, and come back with a cost option, and also to add 2 ball diamonds, as well as the soccer fields, which would take a significant burden off us for that second phase. So I'll let Lisa discuss that. You have the packets here. The first few pages are just going to be talking pieces over like what the design was to begin with, and she'll reference that. And then you have 3 more paper clips. It's option 1, option 2, and option 3, and they're in order. And if you look up in the red box up above, they'll say option 1, option 2, and then the last one it's just option 3. So,
I'll walk you guys through it.
Alright.
So remember last time we were here, we talked, we want to look at some options, do the West Third extension and see how we could get the best value for this project to meet as many goals as we have set out for this project in this first phase and get us prepped and ready for the next phases and future development all around the project. So the first sheet you're going to look at here, this is just a updated overall concept of the whole sports complex. This is showing the original layout we had at the top there with the ball diamonds. And it's got everything that we'd like to have in the future, just updated concept to show everybody. We go on to the next couple pages.
If I can, excuse me, but we also have barns and stuff down there.
Yep.
Which barns are in the bottom?
Yes. Barns
These
are
the
down
barns
by
right there. Okay,
bottom.
gotcha.
That little white spot south of all the bright green colors, that's Myers Meadows, that red building there. And then, so then that blue area over on the left side, that's the pond.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, so the barns are there, and that's a future use of the barns to be determined. Then these other couple sheets are just some close-ups for you guys to take a look at what everything would look at full build out. Just wanted to give you a better feel for it. So more just general knowledge. But what I really want to go into are the cost points. So we broke it out into 2 different options to start with. The first option that I had on here, option 1, this is the extension of West Third that we had last talked about. So this option includes extending West Third, includes all of Jefferson. So Jefferson goes up, then we have West Third going across, and then this one includes West Third going all the way over to Washington. Does not include Walnut. We dropped Walnut because we're now going to connect over at West Third. Still includes some of the infrastructure for a future Walnut Street, or if we ever need it. Just some storm sewer is going to get put in there. And we left kind of space open, so in the future, if needs are there, that road could go back in, but it's not going in this phase. This phase also, this option also shows the potential of West Third going the other direction for future development. That is not even in the city yet, not even planned, but we do realize that there's a very good likelihood that development will occur on that other side of West Third. So we have things like water stubs go in that direction, storm sewer going that way, and sanitary. So things will all be able to work together 20 years from now. When I'm not here, not when this is the next engineer gets to deal with it, but we're trying to put all this stuff in place now for the city. So also included in this option is 2 baseball fields on the north side. So this will give us 2 baseball fields, it'll give us a soccer fields, it'll give us a parking lot for the soccer fields, a grass parking lot, a grass overflow parking lot up by the baseball fields, and another grass overflow parking lot by the soccer fields.
So this parking in between is grass?
Grass,
Okay.
grass. It's, you can still see the overlay there of the other one, but we're not gonna put the money into it now because this is more of a temporary solution, but the
Yeah.
ball fields.
They can
would-
get blown away for the
Yeah, it's gonna
project
be
later.
changed in the future, but it's really a flat area already, so it's just gonna kind of stay as it is and just become a grass overflow parking lot
Okay.
to serve those 2 ball fields. But the ball fields will be fully functional with permanent fencing and everything else in there.
So what's the distance between the parking lot and the ball fields?
Well, right now, we think we were just talking about maybe doing the ball fields as the full size and shrinking the parking lot. Because the parking lot isn't designed, it's a conceptual parking lot layout, it's just kind of stuck in there. So it could be whatever we want, because it's a grass field.
I was just more like thinking liability reasons.
The windshield contract.
Correct, and there will be fencing. At the full build-out of the sports complex, there would be netting, yes. At this phase, we're a grass field, so that's not in the budget at this point, it's more,
Not a lot.
And just so you have the, we were talking, those are full regulations, so those are 300-foot fences. So we could have any age.
Baseball,
Baseball, softball,
Little
slow
League,
pitch,
T-ball.
T-ball,
all the way down to
everything,
T-ball.
everything would be there.
Sure,
The infield would have different lengths for the bases for the appropriate age group.
sure.
The infield would be line, the outfield would be grass, and it'd be professionally done by a,
specialty contractor that does that, that does ball fields. So that's option one. And highest price one, of course, option one. Then I'm gonna talk about option two, which was, we were looking at another option to save some costs on paving and some other costs. So option two was not extending West Third all the way over to Washington. We were just gonna stop it at the parking lot. This would still meet fire because you can get a fire truck in and out through the parking lot, so it's not a dead-end road. But this only has one access through Jefferson, so all traffic would have to come through Jefferson until the next phase went on, when the road could get built. Because the road's designed, West Third Extension's designed, ready to go, it's just a matter of when do we build it. Construction phasing is what we're talking about here. So that's option two, so you would still get the ball field, same as everything else, just West Third doesn't go all the way over. We will have to extend the water main as part of option two, because that's part of the looping of the future water main. So we still have some work on West Third, but you want to get a new West Third extension very far. So that's about all for option two, really. Not real different. But really, the one I do want to talk about is option three. So option three goes back to option one, which is the full build-out of Jefferson and West Third all the way to Washington. But what we're talking about doing is pulling out some of the specialty items out of a roadway construction project and bidding those separately so that we get the specialty contractors who are going to do that work to be the ones bidding on it. So there is no layout for option three, it's just a didn't layout. So what it is would
it would be
be
the same as option.
same as option
Same as
one.
option one.
Same as
It's
option
pretty much
two.
option one, I just moved the numbers around to get us a better value for the project. So the people who are gonna bid on this project, the contractors, they're gonna be major roadway contractors. They do roads, they do water, sanitary, storm, infrastructure. That's what they do. They don't build baseball fields on a daily basis, and they don't do irrigation systems on a daily basis. So they're gonna have to go, we put this item in the bid, which we can, they will then go find someone to pull into their bid, the prime contractor, to meet that requirement. We won't have a lot of control over who that is. It'll be the lowest bidder, because they're trying to get the project. So I'm thinking that I would recommend that we pull out the finished grading and the final work on the baseball fields in the irrigation system, pull it out of the roadway contract. We bid that this year as a small separate contract, just to those specialty contractors, but we do the mass grading for the baseball fields as part of the roadway contract, because they do mass grading really well. Roadway contractors have all the excavation equipment, we'll get it all graded, nice and flat, ready to go. The next guy walks in, he can do all the finish work, all the nice, pretty stuff that makes the baseball field. And I'm thinking we're gonna get the best value, we're gonna get the best bids from going that avenue. So I'm recommending we go with option C. That would be my advice, but we're here to discuss it with you guys and see what your thoughts are.
So option three, there's 7 baseball fields, I take it?
Option three is actually, we're only gonna build the 2 fields that are shown in orange.
Hey, Rick,
Yeah.
it's gonna be option, it's gonna
Option
look like option one. You're a paper
Yeah, you're
clip, it's
option.
gonna be,
Your
It's
option?
gonna look at, yep, it's gonna be option one, but they're pulling out the pretty things at the
Yes.
end. They're gonna get an expert company to come in and do the grading of the baseball fields. So,
We'll still
if-
get Third Street extension. or
yep,
Third
we'll
Avenue
still get the extension, and so,
So someday will they go all the way around like an L, all the way to Jefferson, from Third Street to Jefferson?
that's what number,
We are gonna get that.
option one,
We're gonna go with option one. We're just pulling out 3 items from option one and sending them on to their own smaller bid.
right?
Yeah.
But if you go with option two, Rick, option two, that Third Avenue would then come into play in the second phase. It just wouldn't be in the first phase. And there'd only be one in and out, and that's Jefferson. But if you go with option one, or option, I like option three
Yeah.
personally, but
Yes.
you're gonna get Third Avenue right away in the first phase. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
One thing to think about too is on the difference between option 1 and 2 is 110,000. So basically for 110,000, you can get the rest of that curb and gutter all the way up to Third Avenue. Not to mention, if there's any savings that we can make on the irrigation and the baseball field outside of that bid, that would be a bonus on top of that. So realistically, we were thinking we could save 50,000, so that means it's about $60,000 to get that road paved.
Yeah.
So it seems, as it is, a no-brainer. Now, I do want to mention, we do have, I made my notes, the public open house, next, like a public hearing, next meeting. I'm planning to get a letter this week. I'll send it out to all the residents on Third that are affected, including the 2 on the corner across the street. So that way, if anybody has any objections or concerns or wants to hear, I have been in contact with several up in that area. So, and I will make sure that they all receive that letter and know about it, can come here and voice their concerns or support or whatever that they would
Have
have.
they all calmed down yet?
Yeah, they have, and actually, we've been, Drayton worked with one of them on writing a grant for the project, so, I think, the gal that was on the Zoom, she came down, and, we had a good long talk, and, I think they were just wanting to learn more about it, and it seems to be going well, and I have not heard anything since about it negatively, so. But this was just for her to come and, I don't know if you saw my email, it was kind of this afternoon, so I kind of put it all in there. You guys can think about it. If you have any questions during the week, you can feel free to ask and go from there. I did, if you did see the email, I talked about the funding, where that may look like it could come from. Did all of you see that email by chance? Yeah. So.
Well, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, any other questions, you guys?
I don't.
Well, when we come back in 2 weeks, we'll have like a nice, pretty colorful drawing to show everybody. It's all designed and stuff, so we'll be ready to answer any questions they have or anything, and then once that goes through, then we can send it right out to bid as soon as we want to
So
have that.
that would be this year's timetable,
Yeah,
that
it's-
work that we talked about.
They will start in the spring. It's gonna take them a while, like this is gonna be seeding and everything, but it's gonna be a while to get all the vegetation established out there. It's just such a large site, so it's not like we're gonna be playing soccer in October. Not like, I just don't think our vegetation will have taken at that level, but it needs a while to establish. But the work will be going on this construction season.
Excited.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for the creative approach at giving us these options. This is good.
I think the color coding really helps.
Yeah, definitely. More color.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, 5D, discussion of possible action in reference to History Center repairs. I see we have,
Becky and Ann should be on.
hi Becky,
Yeah.
hi Ann.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right,
Yeah, Becky, you wanna talk about these? This is gonna be referenced the west wall of the History Center.
The lead paint?
Yes, so we have a bid and we want to, accept the bid from, Vice. Remove the lead paint. We've talked to them, so we'll be able to get that done in this. And then Ann and I are working on grants to then, the masonry repairs in the next fiscal year.
So if you remember, they have a grant for $19,000. The total price is
Right.
$29,700, and they have plenty left in that budget to make up the difference of that. We will do the budget amendment to accept the grant that they're receiving, but between the grant and what they have left, it will be enough to finish that.
We only got the one bid for the lead paint abatement, right?
Correct, yep.
Is there any other companies that do that, or is this the only one that they found?
No, there's other companies and we sent and they, no one,
Oh, we had.
For whatever
two
reason,
other
you're cutting out
parties.
about every third word, Becky.
Correct. We had interested parties, but nobody submitted the bids back.
I guess my next question is, so after we remove this lead paint, what happens, does it get sealed? Or is there a chance that there could be more damage done to these bricks while we're waiting for a grant to be approved or
Or this next
received
year's
or,
budget or whatever.
yeah.
well, if we get the grants, they will be activated July 1st. Am I saying that right? Correct, Ann? Okay, so then we
The,
would be
the
able to.
grant will be activated? This grant that
Would
you
be
guys
award,
are,
The new one.
A future grant would be awarded in July.
okay. I'm just worried about, you take any kind of protection off those bricks. We don't know what kind of condition they are underneath that. And there could be possible more damage done if they're not sealed right away. That's my only concern, that you just said that you guys were writing a grant to move forward after that. It could be, I mean, I think, my personal opinion, I'm all about historical preservation, but I'm also wanting to make sure that we don't see issues down the road. So my next question would be, does this proposal include any unforeseen problems with the removal of the lead paint?
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you
No,
could get in there and be like, okay, there's.
No, I
15 layers.
understand. I understand your concern. We're concerned about it too. We would have enough money to be able to do, at least major work if we didn't get all of the grants that we're applying for, that we'd be able to do major, repairs. And, also, we're juggling money between the monies that are available to both the History Center and library, and we got some really good bids on work on the library. And so we will be able to pull money the next fiscal year because they won't need it. They'll be done with their projects for the most part.
So if I may
And
ask,
so- I'm sorry?
What, is the tuck pointing included in the paint removal?
No, this is just the paint removal at this point. And then the next step is all the tuck pointing and replacing bricks and that sort of thing.
And there's no budget or anticipation that that would happen immediately after the lead paint removal?
Well, it's gonna be because of their schedule. We were thinking about, can you get it into your schedule and do this by the end of June? And so they are, and so it's going to be almost, to have everything sitting there, for a month, nothing really major is going to happen to the brick. that's not going, unless bricks are just start falling out, then we're just gonna have to start, they're just gonna start working on them right away, but that's a little, we're hoping that's not gonna happen.
But the paint removal and the tuck pointing would be done this coming summer.
No, just the paint removal. So then, because then Brandon is going to talk to him and revisit his bed with, once we can all see the brick and see what's really going on under there.
So he did bid out the masonry work to be done. But the problem is, it's not in your stuff, because he did not want anybody getting approval to do it, because he's not sure what's underneath the paint. So he said, this is just a wild guess as to what the cost would be.
But the goal is to have it done next year.
Yes, but the problem is, he
Right.
can't do it this summer, because they're already full. So it would be into the fall, is when he would start that next part. He would get out here as soon as the paint's removed, then reassess, give us a new updated quote that would be more in line with what it's gonna cost, and then he said we could start in the fall.
Okay, so what is the anticipated timeline between the paints coming off and tuck pointing, masonry repair,
I
sealing,
would say
whatever?
3 to 5 months, would that be
That's
accurate?
what, that'd be my guess.
So,
Just leery of it sitting there.
I am too,
because I
I'm
can
very
see
leery of it
most
sitting
all-
Oh, we are too, we are
and then I
too.
guess my question is, if you guys are leery on it, why would we risk that? And what, honestly, I'm just curious, what is your guys' end result that you want done with the History Center? I just feel like these are taxpayers' money,
Yes.
and
That's why
we
we're
need
going
to make
for
sure
grants.
that this is what our taxpayers want as well, right? So
Right.
if we continue putting money into this stuff, are we then going to the inside and redoing stuff in the inside too? I mean, what is your end result for this? I guess that's my question.
The end result, that sits right in the main intersection of the town. And, it looks like we don't care about our town.
Oh,
And
absolutely,
that-
I think the whole downtown needs to look nice. I guess my question is though, we put a lot of money into this, how much money is this History Center bringing back to the town?
Well, and that's, again, it's clear about getting, getting the signs out and saying that this is what's, in
But
town.
does the History Center bring in revenue to the town?
I think that would be, I don't know how much, because then they go to the restaurants and that sort of thing. So I don't really know how much, of course, these last couple of years, not much traffic at all.
They bring-
But it's a, it's a city building and it's a building, whether the History Center, I think that, I think we need to take care of the building.
Oh, I think we need to take care of all of our city buildings. And here's just something that I kind of was throwing things in my head. There's a building sitting, this was an old grocery store, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
The
Right.
store,
The
right?
last two Wilsons.
Right. So I guess, would there be another building out there that looks nice that we could actually move the History Center to that might be, I guess my thing is that there's gotta be somewhere that we can put a building or acquire a building to make a little bit more money. My thought kind of, and this was just going through my head the other day, we have a restaurant that's sitting downtown that is not used, the old Chinese restaurant.
Right.
I think it would be great that possibly the city acquires that, we lease it out, and that becomes the History Center. We put a whole bunch of stuff in there where people can come in, have somewhere to eat, and be able to see everything that Lisbon has to offer and the past of the history of Lisbon. And then there's revenue coming
Good idea.
in versus we're just kind of, we don't charge anybody to walk into the History Center. I think the only revenue that we make with the History Center is money that from rent, from the apartments, is that correct?
And
I think that goes into the history budget.
Right, and that goes to the history budget.
Right.
So it's totally nonprofit, there is no profit or revenue being seen. So I guess my thing is, we're throwing a lot of money into it, but not getting anything back in return. And
Uh-huh.
do we see a lot of people from outside of the city coming into the history center? Or is it really just a lot of the locals? Because they're eating at the restaurants anyways.
No, I'm liaison to that group too. And they do have people come in, they have sometimes a busload or a van load of people from other history centers that are interested. They give donations usually, there's no charge. So it does bring some people into town. If we get signs out on the bypass, it'd probably bring even more people in. But as far as city money, taken off the paint, about 2/3 of that money is a grant that we need to use this fiscal year.
I understand that.
And as far as taking off the lead paint, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but from the way that guy talked, who seemed very knowledgeable from the company that's gonna do the work, that a month or 2 or 3 of rains and such without a sealer on it, that's not so frightening, but years it would eventually. He doesn't know what they're gonna find underneath that lead paint, although he did indicate that he didn't see any of the real narrow joints that indicates that it's no Portland cement in the mortar, which that would be bad. Sometimes he says you just end up with sand behind the brick. But that's usually with a very thin mortar. And he didn't see that on there, is my take on it. Of course, he couldn't really guarantee us either way what he's going to find. But he made an estimate on how many brick would have to be repaired. And it's my understanding that if he finds a lot more, it's going to cost us more. If he finds less, it'll cost us less.
Becky Ann, what is I know we talked in our meeting, what is the latest time frame that you can use that grant?
The $19,000 grant?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Lynn County has asked us to use that by the end of this fiscal year, by June 30th.
Right, but it was my.
We do have
Sorry.
an option to request an extension, but we don't advise that because we are writing other grants to Lynn County and we don't want to have a grant that's outstanding or they won't consider it.
Exactly.
So, for instance, as we look at this masonry project, after the lead paint has been removed, Becky and I are ready to work with the History Center Foundation to write 2 grants to Lynn County. Last year, they awarded $2,400 for phase 1 of the History Center, and they turned around and through a different Lynn County grant program, they awarded $19,000. And so that's, $22,000, $23,000 of taxpayer money that we don't have to spend. So Becky and I are also ready to write a grant to the State Historic Preservation Office. It's called a Historic Resource Development Program grant. That one will be more significant. We're thinking somewhere on the order of $22,000, something along that line. But in order to apply for a grant like that, the State Historic Preservation Office and the state of Iowa, they want to see that the community has an investment in it, or to use what Nate said earlier, that the community has some skin in the game. So they don't want to pay for the whole thing. They want to be a partner, they want to help. And this is all tied to preserving these historic places. This is tied to protecting and improving your downtown. And in this case, this building is in the Main Street Historic District. Imagine, if you will, if the wall of that building is not taken care of in the next, I don't know how many months, and it begins to fade away. You all saw the video 2 weeks ago. You can see what happens if there are city-owned buildings or privately owned buildings and people just don't take care of them. I think you have to look at what we're proposing here as an investment in that building. Whether or not you decide that it remains as the history center is another question. But if you put an investment in this building and you fix that wall and you fix the problems that caused that wall to deteriorate so badly, then you can turn around and you can sell the building. But how are you going to sell the building knowing that it needs $60,000, $70,000 worth of work? What are you going to get for the building? So you have to look at it as an investment, I think.
Well, also is that if you sell it without fixing it, then someone else doesn't have to fix it to where it's attractive. They can leave it and let it keep falling down. Or side it, or, do something really terrible to it, and then that's in the middle of our town.
Well, and you're talking about the sports complex and all of the people that will be drawn to our community, who will be using the sports complex. What do you want them to see when they stop at the intersection of Washington and Main, going either direction? What do you want them to see? You want to see a deteriorated building with chipped paint on the side? I would also say that since the city knows that there is lead paint on that building, that represents a liability for the city. So once you know you have a problem like that, I think your insurance company would tell you that you need to do something to fix that problem.
I think you guys, no, we get that. I think a lot of us are apprehensive about moving forward on it, not knowing when they're going to get to the next phase, not knowing what's underneath it, and if this is going to cost us another $50,000 or $60,000 because we now have mortar crumbling out. I think that's the unknown, I think, is what we are all, there's a few of us up here that's what we're concerned about.
The only way we'll know is to take the lead paint.
I get it, John. I absolutely understand that. But what happens if they take the lead paint off and now it sits for 3 to 5 months with mortar crumbling out? What happens at that point? That's the
We have
concern.
barricades on the sidewalk. and
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
even
that's a
more
liability itself. So I guess that's my thinking is it could cause more issues not having it done right away. I mean, I have no qualms about getting the lead paint removed. I'm all for that. The delay of time, the timing is an issue for me. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, Brandon, do you remember him saying that this would be a catastrophe if they find that the mortar isn't good, that we have to fix it within days or weeks?
No,
No, but,
I mean, you.
I don't know if the lead paint is keeping that building upright, I don't know.
No.
I
It's-
doubt
I
it
think there's
is.
15
And that's
layers.
mortared on the inside and on the outside, so the inside's undoubtedly good.
Mhm.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
The other
I don't
thing,
mean to get struck down by lightning here, because years ago, I led the charge to not buy that building for the History Center vehemently, and still believe I was right, but I lost, and we need to fix the building. The fear I have is it's too small, but we do have maybe the possibility in the future to expand it if we need it. But I think you have to go ahead. There's no stopping now at this point.
one thing too is this bid was put together with the removal of the lead paint and the masonry work. So it's a potential that there were people that do the masonry work that don't deal with the lead paint, that we could potentially get another bid from someone else that's specifically for the mason work. So that's another option too.
Yeah.
But we're already.
no, because we did it so that the paint removal, and they didn't.
Okay.
But we've got, I think, a good relationship with this company that's done other work for us on the library building, where I think recognized as a good customer. I think they'll take care of us. He did indicate their schedule is tight, but he also would rather get the work done before the end of June and not have to ask for an extension. He realizes the importance of that. I was impressed with the company, with that person that came to talk to us.
Yeah,
He's really willing to work with us.
and I like what Mike said, we kind of have to do this.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. I
And
mean,
there's
it's
a-
a liability
there's a
with
low
lead
risk.
paint, it's, you know, there's a liability regardless of what we do.
I think there's a low risk on the 3 to 5 months of potential exposure.
Right.
So we go forward, I say we go forward with this, and
Yeah,
And,
it's agreed. If they saw a truly bad situation there, they could stop removing the lead paint.
That was my next
Change
question.
things.
Like,
Yeah,
if he
they're not
sees a
gonna-
potential issue as he's beginning to remove the lead paint,
Oh, yeah, if bricks start falling out, I'm sure.
I would imagine that he would stop
The
it
building's
in
stood
his
up for
tracks.
a number of years for Al Wilson, it'll make it.
it'll make it.
That's right.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to approve the bid for the lead paint abatement with the $19,000 grant, helping to pay about 2/3 of it.
Second.
I'll second.
We got a motion, we got a second, do a roll call on this one. Sarah?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I say aye, so it's approved.
Get her done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 5E, fiscal year 23 budget update.
All right, so we had all the budget meetings, and I just wanted to kind of go over where we're at with everything. We'll have the public hearing at the next meeting. So I just kind of wanted to walk through, so tonight we do it. We can maybe answer some questions tonight. Everybody has the 11-page, 8-page document?
In the packet?
Yep.
Yep.
So each one of those are the categories. You got the revenues and expenditures, and then it gives you the amount. A lot of these, as we go through, it's money in and out. So, but the ones I asterisked, I want to talk about. So the first one's the general fund. As you can see, with what we take in, and again, this is where all the property taxes come in play there. And then our expenditures were about $130,288 to the negative. But one thing I want to keep in mind is we still haven't, the money we took in from insurance, from the derecho, and all that stuff still hasn't gone out. So like this year, we're showing an increase in the revenues. Next year, we've already taken that money in, so we're going to be spending some of it. So that's why that's the case. Our balance right now, as you can see in the treasurer's report, was like $556,000. So I'm not too concerned there.
Okay.
Page
Local option
3.
Sales tax?
Yep, page 3. So local option sales tax, and I'll read here. This is back in 2011 when this was approved. Local option sales tax can be spent for up to 25% of local option sales and service allocated for property tax relief. So we pay some of the insurance out of that. All the street lights come out of that. I think we give money towards the sauerkraut days out of that. So that's what, so to give the insurance and the lights help with the property tax relief. The remainder can be used for infrastructure improvements to include sewer, water, street, and stormwater improvements, and any other lawful purpose. So it's kind of wide open as to what we want to use it for. Right now, we're getting in about $350,000 a year, and that's up about $60,000. And As you can see, our expenditures right now are 145.15. So that was why this is one option I mentioned for the sports complex to take some funds from, just because there's a little bit of a surplus there, and we do have that surplus in that account right now. So I just wanted to touch base on that. Any questions? All right, if you go to page 6, I just want to explain that. It looks like this account's negative 167,989. If you look over to the left, this is the American funds, the rescue funds. That was for sewer and water infrastructure projects. We took in the first 167,000 last year, or in this budget, and then we'll take in the next 167 in the next budget year.
Okay.
So the plan is to, sorry.
I was just gonna say, you listed that on the YTT proposal.
Yep, so this is an option. As you can see, the lost funds can be used for that, as well as this. I know that Travis has some things that he wants to spend, to get upgraded. The other thing to keep in mind, in the back of our mind, is the new well. I think we're gonna have to utilize some funds from one of these two to get the well finished. So that's another thing that we'll have to keep in mind, but I did put that in there, showing that we're gonna spend all that money next year. But you can see, we're taking it in 2 parts, so it all equals out.
Okay.
Sports complex, as you can see, this is part of the bond. We took in the $900,000 revenue as a part of the bond. And then next year, we're gonna be paying $743 out of that. This will get adjusted as we go out beyond that. So right now, I do have the 157 budgeted this year, just not knowing when they start and when they finish. But if you put the two together, it gets you to the 900,000. So. Water line rehab, again, same thing. We're hoping that that gets going under the next budget year. You can see the bond payment of $2.5 million came in. We budgeted 1.5 for next year. Obviously, if that extends into the following year, we'll have to use, we can tap that again, but it's just showing that's why it's negative, is because we've already taken that money in as a revenue.
That was via bond, there was a grant for that.
Bond. Yep. The grant, that's a separate, I did apply for the $2 million grant through Lynn County. I haven't heard back on that yet.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Thank you.
And then the last one, 610, and this is the one where I've talked about before, where we're gonna need to raise the sewer rates. So that's the 30,000. So that'll be coming in the next few meetings. We'll have to have a public hearing for the ordinance change to raise that. So you can see we're 30,000 shy, so we're gonna have to make up that difference. And the last one, same thing, went with solid waste. We talked about that at the last meeting, how they started that, there was a surplus of that fund, so they made the prices low to begin with, and they knew that they'd have to raise it over the course of time. So same thing with, as part of the sewer, we'll have to raise that a little bit, because you're gonna see we're projected to go down 16,000, so we'll have to make some adjustments there.
That's the garbage fee?
Yes, yep. Other than that, as I put in my notes, based on this, I thought it went pretty well. Our current rate right now is 14.35, and going forward next year, it's set to be 12.51. So the tax rate will go down, which should be a bit of good news for everybody.
It's kind of surprising with all the big things you got going on, but it's good. All right. Anything else? Any questions?
Yeah, does anybody have any, I know I kind of went through that fast, but a lot of these other ones are just funds that all neutral out, so it's all wash each other out. But if you have any questions, or if you ever go through it and want to stop in or email me questions, feel free.
All right.
Thank you, Brandon.
Do that.
All right, moving on, and this might get tabled.
I'm actually, Chief Shannon had a family member have a procedure, and he wasn't able to be here, but he wants us me to call, so I'm gonna put him on the phone.
Should we go ahead and do this?
At least talk about it.
Residents, okay, sounds good. Then 6A, hearing in reference to dog bite, discussion of possible action in reference to vicious animal removal from city limits.
All right, I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. So I got Chief Shannon on the phone.
That ain't gonna work.
Where are we at, Brandon?
There you go.
That sounds better.
That's good.
Hear me now?
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Very good. We on the,
You're up.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear everybody?
You're on the loudspeaker.
no, I can't.
Okay. Just so you're aware, Corey she is not here.
Okay.
So I didn't know if you still wanted to table this or how you wanted to handle it, so that's why we called.
Why don't we table it just to make sure, should be no confusion on her part. We had a conversation Friday that she was going to be there. Is Mark there?
Mark is not.
Mark? Okay, so that would be the other side. I would want to make sure he was there if we were going to be taking any action anyway, so at this point I'd probably table it.
Okay.
That means she can keep her dog in town until,
It is in Davenport right now,
oh, it
so
is? Oh, that's good.
to the best of our knowledge, she moved it to Davenport until it was decided otherwise, but she was anticipating it being removed.
I got a question for you, Doug.
You get your seatbelt?
Hey, Rick's got a question, Doug.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did she, come and bring in the vaccination records?
We do not have vaccination records. We've asked multiple times for those. She is not going to vaccinate the dog until there's a decision by council. So she's been instructed that either way, whatever council decides, the dog wouldn't be allowed to come back into town until it's vaccinated.
So, I guess it'd be up to the guy, I guess if I got bit and didn't know vaccination, I think I'd probably have to go through the procedure of making sure, I mean, this is pretty serious stuff now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she's beyond the quarantine period now, so the dog is eligible to be vaccinated.
Okay,
She claims it was, she just hasn't been able to produce any paperwork.
okay. Well, I'm glad it's gone.
All right.
So are you guys comfortable, I mean, you guys can still, I mean, if Doug's comfortable, you guys can still make a motion, or if you want to table it. She was supposed to be
Doug,
here.
I was gonna say, how long did you guys give her to present vaccination records?
22 days, and she still hasn't produced it from the police report.
Yeah, she had, per our ordinance, you have to have a hearing within 7 days, and it can be extended for good cause. So that's why we had the hearing tonight. Doug, when did you serve her? Was it Monday last week?
I believe so. And then I touched base with her again on, what did I say, it was Friday?
Yep, and she wrote me she came in here and talked to me on the 22nd, which was Tuesday, I want to say.
Yeah.
So she came in Tuesday for her appeal, and she had requested to move the meeting, and I wasn't sure if that could be done, and I talked to our attorney and talked to Doug, and they recommended doing it tonight to stay within that 7-day window. And then Doug made contact with her to tell her that it was going to be tonight, and he presumed that she was supposed to be here, so.
Problem solved, things adverse to court.
Dog's out of town.
That's our understanding. I
She
can't
can't
prove
bring-
that, but she said the dog was going to Davenport with, I believe, a family member.
So if we act on this, and let's just say, we make a decision that the dog, and she's walking the dog down the street, can you, take the dog, or do you have to go through the courts to do that?
we'll have to go through the courts to do any seizure of any dog at that point. And like I said, she's already said the dog's in Davenport, and won't bring it back until there's a decision by the city at that point.
Well, I read the police report, and I've been through many of these. I don't know the extent of, did the dog came out and just bit him, or was he trying to pet the dog?
Did you hear that, Doug?
No, it's kind of
Was he trying to pet the dog, or did it just come out and bite him?
Can you repeat it, Brandon?
He wants to know if the dog just come out and bit him, or he was trying to pet it, or what the...
No, so the allegation was he was the 129 apartment complex. He was walking in the common area driveway of that property. The dog was on a chain and was able to extend into that common area driveway and bit him on the hand. So there didn't from anything that we've got, everything that we've talked to, there was no provocation, there was no action that he was doing to antagonize the dog or even trying to. The dog just approached him and bit him.
So according to our ordinance, it could be considered at large, right? Because it wasn't under the owner's control at the time it attacked somebody.
Yeah, it was tied to a...
It was tied up and done. Yep.
Okay.
And she said it was only out for a few seconds, and it's normally muzzled, or she had the muzzle for it, but wasn't that time. But she was vaccinated and hasn't produced those records, so.
Well, here's my 3 cents. The dog did bite somebody. We've asked numerous times to get vaccination records. Let's say it doesn't bite anybody in Davenport or something. If she can't show up, we notified her several times. We went through the proper procedures. I make a motion that we honor your letter and have it removed from city limits, ban it from city limits. You got a lot of kids that walk to school
Through
that alley. Man, if you really wanted to, talk about it, you'd have been here. You'd have thought, but my biggest problem is the vaccination records.
That should have been easy to produce.
You can call the vet and have them email them to
Be
you.
registered through the city, which is where they approve vaccination.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, and so I think you're good on legal grounds that way as well. The only other caveat we could add to that is if she wants to appeal the decision of council tonight, she can request a meeting at the next council meeting, and we'll have Mark and her here, make her be here in person, as another appeal process.
So what was she all cited for? Was she cited for vicious animal, dog at large, and no tags?
Well, so we can't cite her for dog at large because technically because it was on a chain and on private property. So it wasn't running at large on city property or in an alley or a street or a sidewalk.
Okay.
From that standpoint, but I don't think we're going to meet that code. The vicious dog is more of an administrative process that we're going through right now with council. She was initially cited for it, which is where part of the confusion was, because one of our officers just issued a citation for the vicious dog portion. We had the city attorney dismiss that because it's more of an administrative process for the city to follow up and declare it vicious, to have it removed rather than criminal sanction.
Okay.
She didn't call in saying she couldn't be here, is that correct?
No. Last contact I had was Friday, and we were discussing the meeting and what basically it was her opportunity for the appeal process, and she was basically talking the case at that point that on why she thinks she shouldn't have to remove the dog, but it was her position to make that to council.
Okay. Well, we have a motion from Rick to uphold the ordinance and the citation. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Sarah?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
I say aye. So,
Anything else, Doug?
No? Yeah, I think we're good. Well, I'll follow up with her tomorrow likely and let her know the decision of council. and then see what her feedback is at that point, so.
All right.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, council.
Thanks.
Yep, bye.
Okay. 6B, set public hearing for budget amendment number 2.
Yeah.
All right, so I would like to set the budget amendment, public hearing for March 28th. If I could get a motion in a second.
I motion.
Got a motion, I'll second. I suppose we better roll call this as well. Mike?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'll say aye. So public hearing set for March 28th. All right, item 7, correspondences.
Do not have any tonight.
This is an energy report in your packet.
Energy report at the last page of the packet, okay. All right, item 8A, city engineers report.
It's online.
Dave, you up there? You're up.
I'm still here.
All right.
Just a couple of things. I believe that CDBG is going to allow us to apply in April for the water system project. They had initially indicated that they didn't have sufficient funds and they were just going to recycle old applications, but latest I've heard is they'll allow us to apply in April. And the other part of that is we're still waiting to hear back from Lynn County. We have applied for grant monies there as well from the ARPA funds. And unless Brandon throws something, I have not heard anything from them yet.
Dave, I will mention, I did talk to ECOG today, reference CDBG. I'm still gonna talk to the gal, but she is saying that we do not qualify based on our income threshold.
Okay, that's the recent change?
Yes, the gentleman who originally said we did or would approve is no longer there. And there was some calculations that weren't done correctly, so I still need to meet with her, but that's a little bit of an update that I learned today, so.
All right. Anything else, Dave?
No.
All right, thank you. 8B, Public Works Director Report.
All right, couple things here. Yeah, obviously, I'm assuming you guys got the nixle and the report for the water main break we had over not Jefferson, but Franklin. What that entailed was a chunk of the C900 plastic pipe that we installed in 2012, I believe, it failed. There happened to be quite a few utilities and connections in the area. We ended up with it being a relatively simple fix once we got to it, but getting to it was an adventure. Brecky ended up coming in. They had 3 guys, all 4 of us were there running, trying to get gravel busted up from the dump pile or stockpile loose, setting up barricades. I am I'm working on getting a list together of just basically step by step, so you guys can understand everything we have to do besides just digging. So the question is why did we do it in-house versus calling somebody in? You guys can understand clearly like all the different steps we have to do, and
You guys bust gravel out of like an ice?
we've pretty much got a mountain of ice out there, so we gotta get that all busted up it didn't cost us anything, that was from the DOT project, so to sit out there with the backhoe and break it while we're doing other projects is kind of what took so long for one individual to be out there, but then we're also using our dump truck in the process of this, along with the contractor's dump truck, so we are using city stuff to cheapen it up. It's not as easy as digging a hole and fixing it. So hopefully for next meeting.
We didn't keep the gravel covered or something, or?
I mean, it's a very large mountain of gravel, so.
We can keep a small one?
So a tarp was not gonna do the trick,
And we do,
Dave?
normally we have,
Yes, yes.
the clean gravel that we use, we do keep that covered.
Okay.
It's the roadstone that we fill the hole with that we have to get.
Okay.
And it just so happened to be, we got some moisture and it was really, really cold. So it wasn't an ideal situation for us on
Okay.
that. We ended up having to send an employee back and forth to Cedar Rapids twice for different parts, because this was a different break than what we normally have. So that was another thing, but, that was with that. We had, when the gazebo was constructed and the retaining wall for Lincoln Square, at some point, they damaged the service line for the resident there, and instead of fixing it, which I would assume correctly, they used a piece of corrugated plastic pipe in there. Well, after the years, I finally allowed the roots to go in there. There was no way to clean the roots out of there without damaging the pipe and creating more of a problem. So we had to fix that.
You gotta take off the retaining wall and replace it?
No, we got lucky. We could dig on both sides of the retaining wall, keep the retaining wall and fence intact. Put in the correct piece of pipe with cleanouts in there, so it was costing us. Brandon and I tried to get to spring to where we wouldn't have to bust through the frost and everything, see where we could do that in-house. Well, we had 3 times had to have Roto-Rooter come through because they were having sewer backup because of that. And the money we were gonna save wasn't cost effective as the Roto-Rooter bills were starting to come in to run the camera and snake in there. So we got that fixed. The downtown lights are mostly done. They should be all completed tomorrow. And with that, I want to let everybody know brush is starting up next month. We have guidelines for our brush piles for the correct way to lay the brush pile. It's safety. The last thing we want is somebody to get hit when they're trying to turn the butt end of the brush to get it into the chipper. We all want it to be running with the flow of traffic, so when you pull it up, we can just grab and slide it right into the chipper. With that being said, that pile is not for the removal of trees. I want to remind people that if they do take a tree down, it's their responsibility to deal with the tree. It's per our ordinance. It's for
It's small brush.
light trimming, storm stuff. Obviously, if we have a storm roll through, we come in and we help and assist with that. Ratio, ice storm, stuff like that. We've tried leaving door tags and letting people know when they've had issues after we've picked up the pile. This year, we're going to start implementing, we're going to leave the pile. It's being the same core group of people that continue to be the problem. So we're hoping that'll fix it and save the time and labor. Stumps, now that we can finally see them again, they're not covered anymore. We're going to start it on grinding stumps and hopefully getting the dirt in so we can get the seating when the window opens. And then parts for the main door have been an adventure to find. They have the mechanism that controls that has steel gears on one side and on the other side plastic. So obviously that's not a long-term.
Is that for safety reasons, so that it can't crush somebody or something?
I believe so, is what it's for. Those openers are based on pounds of weight for the door. So I'm in the process of trying to talk to the door manufacturer on if we, instead of saying a 300-pound, bump up to a 400-pound, what that does safety-wise, because I don't want to get us into a problem where it can smash somebody's hand and whatnot. So that's part of the problem why the doors.
Is it supply chain, when you say interesting finding parts, is it supply chain issues that everyone's
Yeah, because
experiencing, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not that old of an installation, and.
Correct, but they've actually, like we found with our windows, are obsolete now. So what they offer now is a smaller version, and I don't want to spend the money for the smaller version if it won't last. I mean, if it's something we're gonna have to replace. The other thing is I'm looking for maintenance parts, if we can get the plastic gearing and we can replace them, you know, once every 2 years or
Have a
whatever.
spare one on the shelf.
Yeah, have the parts, so whatever we get, I wanna make sure I can get it get a supply of the replacement parts for that.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Travis?
You said brush starts, that'd be a week from today?
I believe so, yes.
All right, thank you, Travis. Parks and Rec Director report. You waited a while.
What's that?
It's a long meeting so
Yeah.
far. You've been sitting there
I
a while.
don't have a whole lot. Our last basketball games for boys basketball are this Saturday. That season went really well. We have registrations for spring soccer going on now. Those are due on March 11th will be the last date for those. I see the drawers already full of them, so. Other than that, we're planning for an Easter dash at City Park this year. We're gonna try to bring it back to Lisbon, so just keep your eyes out on Facebook pages for that information.
The Easter egg dash that Joe mentioned earlier.
Well, that's in Mount Vernon, so normally we group with Mount Vernon and do an Easter egg dash over there, but
Okay.
my board and I, we had one in Lisbon, it's been years, but we've gotten a lot of feedback from families in town that they want to see something here, so we're gonna try to. We wanted to do it the last couple of years, but with COVID and everything, it just hasn't worked out, so
All right.
we're gonna see what we can do to try to do something this year and offer something to the families in Lisbon that
Glad to see
want to
that.
go over to Mount Vernon.
I'm glad to see that happen. Thank you for that. All right. And 8D, Police Department report.
You had nothing for that?
Nothing for this, I imagine. Okay. 8E, Ambulance Director report. I didn't see anything in the packet either, so. 8F, Fire Chief's report. I think he's here.
All right, just letting everybody know, we have our fundraiser on March 12th out at Tinder Roof Hideaway, formerly Regal Crown. The flyers went out, I believe, this last week, so just letting everybody know about that. We're going for boots and helmets for the donations that we received. And also, I just want to touch on, I sent you all an email, reference that grain bin rescue. It was a pretty spectacular effort on everyone's part. I know this is low numbers, but I'm gonna say 75 responders, probably over 30 farmers, Public Works from Lisbon, Public Works from Mount Vernon, DOT, Public Works. It was a total team effort. Everybody was involved, everybody worked together. This was a call that, obviously we do the auto aid with Mount Vernon. It was actually their call. So we worked together, and it just shows incidents like that where you can see where we train together, everybody gets along, and those outcomes are not supposed to be that way, and it could have gone the other way very fast. But it's pretty cool to be a part of an organization when you have people like that, on a Friday morning at 9:30, I mean, I had to shut the road down because there was so many people that showed up. So, pretty cool thing, but I just wanted to publicly give our department big congratulations, because that's a neat thing. I've talked to the people personally that were in there, and obviously their appreciation is over the moon. So that's all I have for fire chief.
All right.
I'd like to add a little something, because the last time that we had one of those, I was fire chief, and that's a long time ago. And we had 3 guys that were at Wilkins, and you don't typically get them out alive. And it's probably the best feeling the fire department will ever have.
It'll be a day I won't forget. I know that.
Not just one, but 4. Like, that's crazy. I mean, there was,
And what's unique about it is this was outside of the bin versus inside. And people that may say, well, it's no big deal, but it is, because
Same pressure.
when the door came open, one of the people trapped said it was like their feet were in concrete, they couldn't move. And, you know, you think about 50,000 bushel of grain, it's nearly 2.5 million pounds of grain that's gotta come out that door. So when you put that in perspective,
With a huge pressure behind
we
it.
were able to go around and cut holes in that moved the grain away, coming out somewhere else, which was a big part of why they got to go into their families.
So they weren't in the bin?
No,
They were outside?
they're outside.
Oh, all right. Mine was in the
Yeah.
bin.
But it was the same,
Same deal? Same
near,
deal?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's completely submerged, so it's not a,
No.
it's same ballgame.
And then I saw the cuts, and I wondered, when you said that, why they had done that, but
Yeah, so it's just to get, and then we had end loaders on each end, moving that grain, because that would fill up to that point, and then grain goes to the least, path of least resistance.
yeah.
So it'd fill up to that hole, and if you didn't keep moving it, it would stop. So you had to keep going, so,
Yeah, good save.
yeah, it was a good deal, so.
All right. Same line, 8F, City Administrator's Report.
Travis answered a lot, or mentioned a lot of these. One thing, obviously, if the appeal process for the dog, Mark will probably be present at the next meeting. I did reach out, Councilmember Williams, to talk to me about the downtown businesses and the vacancies. He'll answer any questions that you have next time in reference to what can and can't be done for the vacant buildings down there, so we'll talk about that at that time. I also was asked a question from a council member about why we have the clerk, Public Works, Park and Rec here for our council meetings. This was before my time. What I did was I reached out to the surrounding 5 communities. I had Christina do that. And just so you know, mainly as a general rule, I talked to, it was the city of Clarence, the clerk, Public Works, police chief, librarian, EMS director, are all there. Solon, they have their city administrator, public works director, and clerk, and financial officer there. Mechanicsville, all city staff give their, department heads give their report.
That aren't necessarily present.
This night, the police and the library was not there. Swisher, all department heads are there and they give their report. And Anamosa, they have all their department heads at the meeting. All of them are paid salary. And there also gives kind of a synopsis of what some are flat fees, some are overtime, some are salaried. So I just reached out for the request, and I just wanted to give that update. So if anybody has any issues, again, this wasn't my policy to do. I think for anything, it's more for communication purposes, but I mean, it's totally up to you guys. The clerk per the ordinance has to be here for the minutes. So I'm salary, graded salary, so the only one, Travis gets a call out. So it's a 2-hour flat, regular rate call out,
Which at this rate,
which is good tonight.
yeah, it all equals out.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions or thoughts, but I just said that I was requested to check around, so that's what I did.
Well, thank you for going the extra step.
Well, I was the one that made the request because in my years of service earlier, we never had that. And so I asked why we did, especially when you're paying overtime on some of those guys for a couple hours and it might not be anything on the agenda. I don't know what, it just seems unusual to me. If there's nothing going on, but whatever.
Is this overtime for you? This is, you just stop short of an hour or two, it's your normal day?
I mean, it's what we try. Yeah, it's not overtime anyways, it's only 2 hours. And the way the contract reads is if it goes over 2 hours, it's supposed to be all overtime. But I've never put any of the extended meetings on because I feel like it's a wash on the long versus short, so.
Okay.
And I adjust my hours. I come in late on Mondays when we have council meetings, and like tonight, I'm running over hours. Brandon will let me leave early a different day or something then. I try to save my 40 hours.
Yeah, I knew you.
And you're required to be here anyway.
Yeah, but we still try to keep getting overtime for it, so.
So there's no additional above the budget consideration for the expense of this meeting, so.
Well, and I think it's a good thing that department heads are here, because I think that they know what's going on. They may not always go back and listen to the meetings, you know, so I think it's not a bad thing to have them here, so they kind of know what is going on as well. I wish more public people would actually attend, so they knew what was going on and watch the things that we do.
You know, one thing
Because things are happening.
I try, like, when we had the water main break, you know, I try to get out there. That's not my forte, but I try to at least go get my eyes on it so I know what's going on. So, you know, I can report on things, but, you know, in situations like that, you know, I think I'll leave that to the expert, and, you know, that's just my feeling on that. But, you know, I'm also not opposed to, there's some meetings where there's just not a lot of substance on the agendas that, you know, maybe, you know. So, anyway, we can just leave it as that, but I wanted to give that.
Well, Mike, are you thinking maybe once a month for public works, once a month for
Well,
the engineer?
I'm thinking both ways. It's not, and sometimes these meetings are like hitting your thumb with a hammer, so I'm trying to save you. Been to enough of them. You know, that if there's nothing really going on in that field, I just personally don't see it. We didn't, during my tenure before, we didn't do that, and it was just conveyed past. I guess it's not a gigantic deal, but I asked the question.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it at that.
The last two things, I reported last time, the park project's still on the radar for, as the weather officially turns, we'll get going on the lights there. And then also I am going to reach out to Union Pacific. We've had a lot of questions in reference to the recent railroad blockage. I am going to reach out and just at least have them here to answer any questions that you have, or at least give their policies on, so that everybody knows how long they're supposed to be blocking it, what are the recent issues. I believe, it's my understanding, the last one ran out of fuel. Don't know if that's the case, but that's just, that was a comment that I heard. This isn't official, but that's just what I heard, so.
Well, unofficially, that's a real stupid reason.
So anyway, we can have him here to, or whoever here to explain or answer any questions that you have. I know that I get called all day long, so both wire and wireless. But, so anyway, that's all I have.
I would appreciate somebody coming and answering that, because it's a mess when you've got people lined up there, sometimes a block long, that when the crossing arms were down this last time, they were down for hours. And is that the one they're saying they ran out of fuel?
I don't know if it was that train. I just heard that there was a train that ran out. Again, I don't know.
I didn't see anything that was.
You don't even want to get me started.
So you think the arms were down, but no train was there?
No.
Train was there, so
It was stopped, but why can't you break it?
they did eventually. They broke it and moved it to open it up, and then they moved it back, connected it back, and then moved it, but then stopped it again 2 different times. And I was leaving our place out there and I was like, oh, awesome, the train's gone, I'm going. As soon as I was pulling out of the driveway, the train there was another train and it stopped. And I was just like, what is going on? I'm sure they were hooking everything back up because I think they unhooked at all roadways. They unhooked, so they were, but it was also the night of the snow and I had to drive all the way from all the way around. But it's,
Yeah,
You were able to get through Mount Vernon then?
I was able to get through Mount Vernon, but yeah.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. 8G, council and mayor reports. I don't have anything this week. Mike, do you have anything?
No?
Rick?
I want to congratulate Lisbon boys and girls basketball for a good season this year. And congratulate Cole Becker and Tyson Scott for being selected first team and being, I want to say, invited to play the All-Star game in spring.
Good job. Very nice.
We'll take that autographs later.
Yeah. All right.
I want a photo autograph, like, I need the photo.
That's right, bring in the headshots. John, you ready?
I'd just like to say thanks to the responders. I'm amazed that they were able to respond that quick to get somebody out and they were still alive. That's truly a situation where every minute counts. That's all I have.
I echo what John said. I follow along on KCRG as the updates came in, and it was just growing up on a farm myself, knowing how farming is dangerous, and this was actually, I'll go way back, but I did a farm safety project for 4-H, and this was what it was about, was grain and safety. So it just kind of brought back a lot of things. So I thanks to all the communities that responded, and not even just the first responders, but everybody extended of that Brandon has mentioned. But it sometimes takes a village to be there for one community. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
And then thank you to the Public Works for spending a lot of time on that last water main break. I noticed you guys there and it was a cold day, so thank you for doing all of that as well. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any other business? Meeting adjourned.